Oh, a little movement.
Thank you very much, Stan, for being the tech guru that you are. I'm sorry to lose you from the active screen, but I have Eva Millauer here, and she is going to speak to us about the course that she is putting forward, Embodiment as the One Heart. Let me introduce Eva Millauer. She's been developing the practice of embodiment as the One Heart over 2 decades. What started with the exploration of dancing, powerful, non-dual poetry has now become an in-depth self-inquiry into the language and embodiment of the reality of no separation through the heart, as well as the in-depth inquiry into the mechanics of apparent separation. The Embodiment as the Foundation course, which has been on trial for over a year, is now being made publicly available. Eva, talk to us about this.
Well, I'm always really fascinated when someone speaks this to me, you know, what I've written, because I go like, oh, it's so interesting when you write something yourself. It sounds very different, doesn't it, than when you hear it spoken to you from somewhere else. And embodiment as the One Heart has something to do with that process. You know, that, for instance, if you have like a really powerful poem, you know, I was working with a poem, for instance, for many years that starts with a line, I don't care anymore to keep silent about it. I have never been born or died. Right, so that's the first line. It's like, it's pretty good in there, right? And I was practicing moving with this for years. It's a poem actually that's by a spiritual teacher called Aditya Samraj. And basically, I realized that I don't want to just read the powerful line, because it's just like reading it is, it's powerful, but not powerful enough. And if I read it aloud, it becomes more powerful. If I speak it by heart, it becomes even more powerful. But if I then move the lines with the whole body, then I started to go like, wow, there is something else going on, right? So embodiment as the One Heart gradually evolved from this type of detailed research of how the transmission of words impacts on the physical. Yeah. And obviously, what I started to realize over time was that this is not just about the reality of no separation. It also is very much about the idea of separation, because the two go hand in hand. We are beings that have been for millennia been believing in separation, you know, and we carry the beliefs of separation in the body. That's my experience. They live somewhere in there. Whenever I find a new one, it's somewhere in there, you know. And so I find that the embodied practice of the reality of no separation literally helps to bring those to the surface, so we can see them and transmute them, because we often don't see them at all, because they've been with us forever and they just live somewhere. And once we see them, we know, oh, that was always there, but I didn't see, right? And funnily enough, it's exactly the same with the reality of no separation. Once we are in that, we also go, oh, I've always been that. I just didn't know, you know? So I found that working through the body magnifies those processes incredibly, and gives them a precision in terms of how they begin to show up in life that I haven't been able to accomplished through meditation itself, for instance, right? Because when I sit somewhere in meditation, I may have all sorts of states of being that I enter, all sorts of experiences, but then I suddenly get up and I'm separate Eva again, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to figure out what actually transforms the patterns in the body, you know?
Vibrations are so important. And then when you dance with the vibrations, they become magnified.
Yeah, totally. So for instance, I can give you a little example because it always helps to just embody it and demonstrate it. So if I, for instance, if I just work with this line, if I start saying I'm feeling separate, yeah? Let's just presume I'm feeling really separate. I'm standing here. I presume this is me. I'm limited to this thing. I live inside it somehow. Let's just presume this was true. Then I would be saying maybe something like, I don't care anymore to keep silent about it. I have never been born or died. Would you believe me? I don't know. So this is also why I love the exploration of separation, because we can bring comedy and humor to it, you know, which makes it so much lighter. Yeah, so but if I don't presume separation, then the same line would look like this. I don't care anymore to keep silent about it. I have never been born or died, but I have been conscious of you without interruption. Always, you are my own form. All of this is my own form. There is only one experience, one event. Creation is one thing, one form. It is my own, and my mind is a shattering of light by which I see you. Right? So this was the whole poem now. It just came out. It just wanted to flood out. It didn't want to just stay with that one line. So this is one of my favorite poems by Aditya Samraj, and I've basically danced these lines for years and experimented with them until I came to a place of realizing that this is such a powerful process that I wanted to share it with people. And I want to go, look, try this, try this. This is so powerful. And the first time I ran some workshops, I got a bit scared, to be honest, because there were sometimes people who so profoundly disappeared in the process within, in such a quick, so fast. They went into very, very deep states of being that they had no idea they had the capacity for, that I was like, oh my God, this is way more powerful than I was anticipating. This goes so quick, right? We can go through the body so quickly into these incredible states of being that I got a bit intimidated by the power of it, really. And I still do sometimes. Now, even though I have done this for 20 years now, I do have phases where I go, oh my goodness, this is more powerful than I ever thought. And I find this also with the course, with the foundation course, when I tried it with the students, I was like, oh, this actually works. And it's like, oh, I want to be really honest, because it is actually, there's always parts in us that are petrified of the idea of being dissolved, right? There are always parts of us that feel scared of dissolve. And they will come up and they will go, oh, no, I need just to be here. I need just to be here, The thing is, though, that it's not true that we are being dissolved. We are just really the dissolvement that we already are, which means we are more who we are rather than less. Yeah, but it's in our mind. It often feels like threatening or scary to really go there, right? So, would anyone share anything or ask a question before I kind of go on with this?
Well, thank you so much, Eva. The dissolving that you speak of, it reminds me of something that I have brought forward, and I feel that we need to develop fuzzy edges, have a flexibility about our beliefs and our stances, because it allows us to become more sure of our core and allows others to interact with us in a more fluid manner. And I think water has the ultimate ability to be humble and absolutely the most loving thing ever. I mean, we have to get a towel to stop it from clinging to us. And it has fuzzy edges. We are allowed to dive in. And I think that that is a beautiful metaphor for becoming the one we are. Be like water. And I think that you are teaching us how to be water.
No, that sounds beautiful. Oh, maybe we could go and have a look at the course right now, because unless there's someone else who would like to ask anything or share anything right now. No? Okay. Can I share a screen?
Yes, you should be
You're
able
good.
to.
Great. Okay, so it is.
If not, I will make it so.
I've got it. So, okay, so I'm here in the learning portal with the 4 modules. So I'm just going to tell you the 4 modules of the course. So first there's an introductory module of what is embodiment as the one heart. Then it's a whole module just around aligning the spoken word to indivisible life, because it's a very detailed process. It's the separation can sneak in really sort of easily through the back door. So there's a particular practice development to that. Then it's about the body as an expression of life itself. And the module 4 is a unique understanding of separation as non-separate. So basically that even separation isn't actually separate. And I had some difficulty ordering these things because of course they're all connected. Of course you can't split them really up at all, but in a course you still have to somehow pretend you have to do that, right? And it's been a juggle, to go like, should it be in this order? Should it be like this? Should it be like that? But I always recommend to people to study where they feel moved to go, if they study it. But I wanted to go like into this one now, because we have just been speaking about water, and that brings me to the body, because the body is a lot of water, right? And the body is also the mystery of it's so many things, isn't it? It's 90 how many percent water, and then it is also so much empty space, because an atom has so much empty space. So it's water, it's empty space, it's all these incredibly mysterious processes that happen constantly that we can only describe, but I don't feel we can really comprehend them. we can maybe say the brain does this and this does that, and in the gut this happens, and we can describe things, but can we really know it? So so that consideration is like the beginning of that module that speaks of that the body is not a separate entity, right? So it is actually a mysteriously complex happening within the happening of everything. So basically, let's just read the first few lines here. To the separate self-sense, it seems to be a great paradox. The more deeply embodiment is fully explored, the less identification with the body there is. So that is my personal experience from doing this work, because the more I go into the body, the less I understand what on earth it actually is. Apart from that it is totally mysterious, and that it appears to have the same level of mysterious patterns that the whole universe has. So I see it as a reflection, as a mirror of the universe, really. So we're constantly walking around as the universe within a reflection of the universe, pretending to be separate little things made of meat, you know? which is really funny, actually. I don't know how we ever got this idea.
It's embodied in us.
Yeah. So on the side, you see this artwork which says the body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe, right? Because the body is totally knows what it is. It's the idea of the separate self that doesn't know what it is. So I was wondering if you felt like maybe embodying that phrase, the body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe, and to just feel what that feels like to do that. Is there something you might want to do? I'm going to just stop sharing for a moment so we can see each other properly.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a beautiful phrase, statement.
Yeah.
The body already knows. And I don't remember the statement, but it's so pretty. You need to put it in the chat for me, darling.
And then not saying anything does it too, doesn't it? Really?
Because the body already knows.
Silence. The body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe. The body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe. The body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe. And really, if you feel like it, just spend some time with that in your own space, exploring it, and just forget for a moment about it being on Zoom and that we all see each other and all these kind of things, you know, just if that feels right now to do that. The body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe. The body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe. The body already knows that it is the mystery of the universe.
You know what I came up with as
Yeah.
I was writing that? One of the things that they teach us is to take notes when we want to set something in our experience, in our brain, in our life. We write it down in order to get connection to do automatic writing. We allow our body to write. When this is so important, Eva, what you have created. And by providing an introductory course, you are entraining us into a practice that will support us for our lives. Thank you so much for doing the work that you've done. The body already knows. It is the mystery of the universe. And as I moved with that, I saw the infinity symbol coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. Oh, yeah. So it really is. It is literally, it's so literal, this work. It's so immediate. You know, it's such a, it's like cooking. It's so simple. It's in some ways, it's so simple that it's almost like the sort of thing we may be overlooking that it's possible because it's so simple. But it's so powerful in its simplicity. That's what I found. And it's always, it has for 20 years, it's always taken me to new territories, to new grounds, to new unimagined possibilities, to new creative projects that I couldn't even vaguely imagine are possible. So it's always taking me to new grounds of existence. Yeah. And I feel this course is also, it's going to be deepening over time. So the more people engage, I put a disclaimer on it. Don't expect it to always look like, it's not a product that is going to necessarily be fixed, because it may well develop over time, basically. And it already has, actually, in the trial year, already has had a beautiful development. Oh, maybe we could look at that as well, because it's, yeah, I can speak a bit more about that development. So there is a particular poem that I started working with the trial students here locally a lot, and that poem seemed to support us a lot, especially when we found that intense separative things came up during sessions, because that can easily happen because the energy is so full and so open. And this poem is, I can share this again. It's in the, oh yeah. I need to just go back.
I wanted to say how much I appreciate your art. Just the beautiful art. Thank you so much for doing that. That's your art.
Oh, right? Yes. Yeah, I've always done a lot of art. I've always done a lot of, I realized much later in life that I've always had this theme of oneness and separation. So even as a teenager, I was writing about it and I was drawing it a lot. I was drawing a lot of oneness and separation all the time without realizing that that was my life theme. And that was my, my particular take on what I was wanting to bring forth in this life. Yeah, it started to all make sense at some point.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, so this is in here, that poem. So, yeah. So, I'm going to maybe read just a few lines beforehand. So, this kind of leads us from the consideration we had with the poem to that next poem. So I'm going to just read this for you, okay? I also noticed that speaking powerful words, invoking the reality of inseparability of the totality of life and moving the body in resonance with those words' transmission was an incredibly potent process. It could disengage the various ideas of separate self that we tend to hold within the physical body. Over time, I felt embodiment as a human being can become more and more of an expression that is totally identical with the beauty of body as life, body as love, and body as one with all there is. The practice of embodied one being itself begins a process of clearing out the habitual patterns of separation we perpetuate in human life. What I mean by patterns of separation are habitual withdrawal activities from this reality. I see everything, and I mean literally everything, as energy in motion, as activity, not as separate entities somehow placed in something called space-time. So instead of attempting to achieve oneness or seek it, I'm inviting you to stop doing literally everything that you tend to do to get there, because reality is not a there, and it is not an other to gain that a you hasn't got yet. Here is an example of a simple poem that carries the frequency of the reality of no separation. I invite you to read it aloud to yourself to get a feeling of how the words create tangible resonance. For me personally, the word love is a word that invokes infinite being and is very inclusive. There's a possibility that the word love doesn't work for you, and that the poem just raises questions like, yes, but what about hatred? Or internal comments like, yes, but I can't just be love. If that is the case, you can experiment with replacing the word love with, for instance, light or life, or any other word that invokes an indefinable freedom that does not exclude anything for you. As a next step, you may want to experiment with adding movement to the process of expressing the words. The movements can be very simple, and they don't have to look like dance at all. Allow your body to simply respond in whichever way it feels moved. And the poem is, when there is love alone. Nothing at all. When there is love all one, as is, as all. How did that feel?
Gorgeous. Thank you. When there is love.
Yes, and what I wanted to share was that during the sessions we had here, I had one-to-one sessions with people, and we had group sessions. And what happened is that this poem just kept coming up, right? So when I do a session, any type of session, I don't plan anything. I haven't planned anything for today, not only because it was last minute, but I would never. I don't. I take the cues from what's happening in the space, right? I allow any session to always just unfold. And this poem kept just coming in throughout the year. It kept coming in, and it wanted to be spoken. And I started to realize that it is really helpful when something comes up that doesn't feel like love. So we started to say, not only when there's love alone, nothing at all. We started to say, there is love when there is fear. There's love when there is pain. There is love when there's conflict. There's love when there's tension, right? And that basically is one of the aspects of embodiment as the one had that I find almost like the most incredible potential that I see, is that imagine you have a really intense conflict situation with someone, and you are in a really tough place with someone and you can't find a solution, and it's getting really tricky and really nasty, and you don't know how to get out of the dynamic. Imagine both people could come in the room and meet each other like that, eye to eye. When there's love alone, right? Eye to eye, because this is another thing. Once we start practicing that as a group, it becomes incredibly powerful, because we magnify it in each other and we feel the oneness through the bodies together, as one, and one with all the space around and one with everything, literally. So imagine people can come into the room with this poem, so they can come from that place of the reality is one, the conflict is arising within that. Then it becomes possible to see it as an opportunity for transformation rather than as a problem, or as a I need to get my point of view, and I need to be in this position, I need to be in that position. If instead we see this conflict is actually an opportunity to move from any fixed positions into a process of bringing separation to light and allowing that process to take everyone to the next level at the same time. So it is completely mutually empowering. If it isn't mutually empowering, something went wrong. If the solution that comes out of that process isn't like, oh my God, that's so much better than I would have imagined what the solution is that's possible. If not everyone feels that way, then some other thing has come in, some attempt to control, some attempt to have power over dynamics, all these kind of things, right? So in some ways, this is at the moment I find it. So, well, I got stuck there. But basically the process from being about performance art and to do more than dancing as a dancer, right? Which how it started. It suddenly went like, oh my God, this is like a completely new potential for humanity to be. And so now I can see this potential of being like simultaneously totally transcendental in terms of total understanding of no separation, no duality, nothing like this, but at the same time being totally in the heart. Yeah, because I find often we get people that want to be non-dual, and it's all non-dual, but somehow it feels quite empty and harsh sometimes, and it doesn't matter what happens because it's not real anyway, this kind of stuff. And I go like, yeah, but you know what? It's bloody crazy, It's like bloody people, no? No matter what. So and then you get people where it's the heart, and the heart is really important, but then there's the separate and the heart, but so I feel the potential is actually to be both, and to develop them, that they begin to, I keep going like here and here, because it's almost like the space above the head is for me like the transcendental, right? And then their heart. So that basically that the transcendental moves through the heart, and then they inform each other all the time. And that is where I feel there is some potential that's so powerful, that I always feel like for all the 20 years I felt I'm only at the beginning of understanding this. And I really need a whole lot more people to discover together where this potential will actually lead, because this is something no person can do on their own. Right?
I'm so glad that you have started this so that we have somewhere to start together.
Yeah. Thank you.
We need a guide. We need to know these things, and to have you already, firmly on the path helps. Chief Phil Lane Jr. says, by walking the path, we show others the way. And you have started well Thank you so much for the work that you've done. I'm very intrigued with the course. How many people have gone through the course?
So in the trial process, I've had about, or have I counted them? How many have I
6 or
got?
26 or 106?
No, it's like roughly 9, maybe, and roughly maybe 9 who actually really engaged with it in a full way, I would say,
Excellent.
roughly. Yeah.
That's close.
So yeah, but I also realized that even just you see, I'm not selling it, am I?
No, and this is,
because this is like, I always tell people, if you want to buy it, read this first, watch this video first, make sure you really want this, because this is like, you can't come back from this, if you really do this.
Eva, we are in a very confusing time. We are told that the only way that people will value what you have is if you charge money for it. We are also told that, and told on the inside that we are here to serve humanity, to give our gifts. And how do we reconcile between the old being told that money is what makes things valuable, and the new that tells us that if we don't give and release our gifts into the world, we are crazy people.
Yeah. That's been a hard one for me, really. It has been. And my reconciliation with that was that I really don't believe money is it. The way we've running the system is not it, but at the moment it's there. And at the moment it's needed to get something off the ground as well, isn't it? If I want this to really grow, it will need that. I'm envisioning like potentially having a center where you could do workshops, performances, retreat, all sorts of creative things happening. And so I'm starting to feel like money will be good. But basically my reconciliation with it was that I have like always a 3-tier system. So it's always like people can buy everything from Embodiment as One Heart according to their affordability. And if someone cannot afford the lowest price, they can still contact me and say, I can't afford it, right? Because for me, it is really important that those people who actually have the motivation for this, they need to do this, and they really should have access to this no matter what. So that is what I feel, because this is really creating something that I really want to see unfold, right? And so I hope that some people who can afford to pay more can basically fill in for people who can't, so that eventually the money just flows in a way that it just naturally comes in, and it allows me to just take anyone on at any time, who wants this, and who is in a place that it's right for them to engage with this type of process.
I think that you are absolutely right on the crest of the wave that is coming and taking us into a future in which we all have the resources that we need in order to walk the path that we designed outside of time before we embodied within the vessel that takes us down the stream of time.
Wow, this was beautiful. You said that beautifully. Yes.
This is what I do. I've been divinely designed, just like you have. And we have been designed for this time, for this transition time from the dual that taught us the lessons that we needed to know in order to become the one that we are. I see us as the child of gods, the next fractal of the omniverse that gives birth to itself. We are budding and going through the birth canal of the one to the more than one, and we get to see ourselves reflected in what is being created. And I don't know what it is, but it just makes my soul sing.
Yeah. Wow. That
This
is
is
so
the
much.
fun part.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. And also I'd like to add to that I really feel it's what's also has come to the surface so much more in the last, so much has changed in the last 20 years, right? Because when I started this, I couldn't find anyone who wanted to do this with me, or who even understood what this was about, or what I was trying to, like, what you do. I even once applied to a festival that had actually unity as a theme, and I was like, wow, and they still felt I didn't fit in the program. I was so lost, within this. But in hindsight, you always see that it was also what was needed, right? Because when you're on your own with something, you really incubate and you really go through that process without anyone trying to change it or to modify it or to kind of turn it into something else, or these kind of things. You really kind of can birth something. So yeah, and what you said, the light beings we are, and the understanding that we are these infinite, incredible beings. Like when we use the word soul, I like to use it in the sense of the the original translation from the Bible, that it is actually the breath of God. Instead of it being like an other type of being an entity again, right? Because we sometimes go like, oh, the body is not my entity, but the soul is my entity. But but if it's just the breath of God, then actually, hang on a minute, who am I again? You can't really put that into a box, can you? The breath of God. So I like using that particular definition a lot. But I also feel, what has come to the surface so much is more and more is the history of separation of humanity, that real darkness, that real horror and terror and cruelty that runs through all of our bodies, and that I feel we becoming more and more capable to transmute that, all of that history of incredible, heartbreaking awfulness, so to speak, that we're becoming more and more capable to transmute that as a collective of one light as well. And I feel that is really, really significant part of that process.
I look forward to hearing more about your program. We've got another about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we should just go, as I just spoke about separation, maybe we should just have a look in there. Shall we do that?
Sure.
Let's have a quick look in there. Oh no, I need to go back in this one.
It's a beautiful website you have.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I just noticed I'm getting a bit better at this. I used to find this really, really hard to have these in-depth conversations and then go on to something like functional like this.
Yeah.
Like my brain just didn't connect with it, but hey, it looks like I'm making a connection. It feels less separate this than it used to.
It's muscle memory.
It's so funny, isn't it? Like all these different waves and frequencies. Okay. Yeah, maybe we can just do the beginning here. Shall we do the beginning? Sharon, would you like to read it?
I would be honored. Would you like the poem or the introduction?
Maybe just the introduction, and then we can go to the poem.
Okay. The most mind-boggling reality of human life for me has always been the capacity for unimaginable beauty and incomprehensible cruelty simultaneously. The image below is a photo of a creative experiment. I was intrigued by dismantling the idea of picture and frame. I was playing with de-entifying the idea of a picture on the wall stuck in a box. The frame, the mount, and the setback space for the image became part of one artwork. I superimposed the white circle as a visual invocation of the totality of existence. The text very much indicates that oneness is one, meaning it doesn't exclude anything. How does that make sense, though? How can absolute horror and absolute bliss be one?
You want to read the poem as well?
One world, one humanity, one heart, one heartbreaking horror, one suffering, one potential for total destruction, one potential for limitless, exquisite, joyous beauty in endless forms of expression, one responsibility as one. By Eva Millauer. Sorry.
Oh, thank you for reading this. This was, you read this so beautifully. I could really feel it the way you read it. It was wonderful. To me, it just says this already. It answers that. To me, it answers the question of how can it be one? Because the way you read it made it so clear that it is one. Did you feel the same, or is this just me?
Reading poetry is the next step from writing poetry. I've read to, I read to my grandmother after she read to me, and I read to my mom, and I read to my girlfriend, and I've read to a lot of people, and I got better with practice. And I encourage people to practice. And I love that you have added the movement to it, because I'm also a bit of a dancer, and to combine these two loves of my life, words and movement, those dualities are now one in me.
Wow.
Oh.
Beautiful.
Now and ongoing. I look forward to knowing more, seeing more, doing more with you, Eva.
Oh, that's wonderful, Lynn. Lynn, sorry, I'm getting my friend's phone. Shannon. Shannon, that's really wonderful. I'm really, really looking forward to exploring this more with you. I can feel the power of this, you know, it's really taking me somewhere else. But this is exactly what my share was about, this question around how the horror and the bliss can be one, would be that in my experience, it is almost like at the well, not as the beginning of the process, but this process is going such a way that it isn't dissociating from pain. It isn't bypassing pain. It isn't bypassing the horror. So in some ways, the intensity with which I feel is much deeper than it used to be. But there is this capacity, not all of the time, but a lot of the time now, to hold it within that understanding of that love, bliss, beingness. And that helps carry that for me. And that helps me also to feel into how can we change this not just the perspective of how can I, little Eva, change anything, but from that reality of one being, it becomes possible to imagine this to actually truly change about humanity, that we actually learn to be who we really are, and then we just will not create this constant re-traumatizing, endless re-traumatizing of our own species as we are still doing now. So this is the vision, and that this is actually a very real potential, and that it is in our beingness that can happen.
I am going to urge the viewers to check out your website and check out your heart. Look inside of yourself and see if this is right for you, and contact Eva. And I want to say, Eva, my project, the download that I got is a vision of a network of gardens wrapped around the world that is the heart of the one that we are, that is embodied in the hearts of our communities. And it's where we come together to grow good kids and good food, to hear each other and to heal each other and ourselves, and develop and grow and become the one that we are in a more intentional way than being moved through our hearts. We can engage our brains and become the divine being, the one that we are. And in these places, I call it our heart gardens. In these places, we learn things like what you're teaching. You would not have to sell this. We are going through the transition now where we have to go from the money into the thing that we can't yet imagine. Being moved by the one that moves us, that is creating us, that is making this all happen, through our hearts and through the actions that we take because we are so moved. And so this, I listen to the words that pop out of my mouth, and in the last couple of years, it came out of my mouth. This is the fun part. And it didn't come at a time where it made sense, and this is the fun part. And I looked at that and I realized, if we go at this, whatever this is, if we go at this from the perspective of this is the fun part, it is.
Oh, I just wanted to check in. We've got just a few. Oh, Lynn just left. I was just wanting to ask her if she had any question, but.
Okay, well, we have come to the end, Eva, of this session. We get back together again tomorrow. I look forward to it. Perhaps we got some more poetry we can share. And I look forward to the adventure with you. Thank you so much for coming and being our guest.
Thank you so
on
much.
World Unity Week 2023. See you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Shannon, for everything. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.